Commander Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Liberty, watching the stars through the main screen. The ship moved quietly through space near the edge of human territory. Jake had been in command for 3 years now, and he thought he had seen everything the galaxy could throw at them. He was wrong. The communication officer turned around with a worried look on her face. Lieutenant Karen Bell had never looked scared before, but today was different. She pressed a button, and the main screen changed from showing stars to showing an alien face that Jake recognized immediately. Ambassador Zethkar of the Vortanian Empire appeared on screen with his blue skin and 6 eyes blinking slowly. "Commander Morrison of the human fleet," Zethkar said in his deep voice that always made Jake feel uncomfortable. "I bring an official message from the Galactic Council. All human representatives must hear this message at the same time." Jake felt his stomach drop. Nothing good ever came from the Galactic Council when they wanted to talk to all humans at once. He pressed the emergency communication button that would send this message to every human ship and colony in space. Within minutes, thousands of human leaders across dozens of star systems would be watching. "The message may now begin," Jake said. Trying to keep his voice steady, Zethkar's image grew larger, and behind him, Jake could see the Great Hall of the Galactic Council. Hundreds of different alien species sat in their seats looking down at the human representatives. Some looked angry while others seemed sad. A few appeared to be sleeping, but Jake knew that was just how their species looked when they were thinking hard. "By vote of the Galactic Council," Zethkar began reading from a floating screen, "humanity has been found guilty of excessive expansion, military aggression, and refusal to follow established galactic law. The vote was 847 species in favor of banishment and only 3 species against." Jake felt like someone had punched him in the chest. Only 3 species had voted to help humanity. 3 out of 850 total species in the galaxy. He wondered which 3 had stood by them, but Zethkar kept talking. "The punishment for these crimes is immediate banishment from galactic civilization. All human colonies, fleets, ships, and outposts must be withdrawn to your home solar system within 1 standard galactic cycle. Any human presence found outside the Sol system after this deadline will be considered an act of war against the entire galaxy." The bridge fell silent except for the quiet humming of the ship's engines. Jake looked around at his crew and saw the same shock on every face. They had known that relations with other species were getting worse, but nobody expected this. "Furthermore," Zethkar continued, "all trade agreements with human worlds are now canceled. All diplomatic relationships are ended. Any species found helping humans after the deadline will face similar punishment." The alien ambassador paused, and for a moment Jake thought he saw something that might have been sadness in those 6 alien eyes. "The Council does not make this decision lightly," Zethkar said more quietly. "Humanity has many good qualities. You are brave and clever, and you never give up. But you are also dangerous. You expand too fast and fight too much. You do not listen when other species try to guide you. The galaxy has decided it cannot risk letting humanity continue on this path." Jake wanted to argue, but he knew it would do no good. The decision was already made. 847 species had voted them out of galactic civilization. "You have 1 cycle to comply," Zethkar finished. "Use this time wisely. Perhaps in the future humanity will learn to be better neighbors. Until then, you are alone." The screen went dark, and Jake stared at the empty blackness for a long moment. Around him his crew waited for orders, but Jake did not know what to say. "How do you tell people that the entire galaxy has rejected them?" Lieutenant Bell broke the silence. "Sir, we're getting emergency calls from every human colony and ship in the sector. They all want to know what we're going to do." Before Jake could answer, his personal communicator buzzed with an urgent message from Earth. President Lisa Carter wanted to speak with all fleet commanders immediately. Jake told his crew to hold position and went to his ready room to take the call. President Carter appeared on his screen looking tired and angry. She had been president for only 2 years, and Jake could see that this crisis was already aging her. Behind her, he could see other government officials arguing loudly. "Jake, she said, using his first name, which she only did when things were really bad. I've been getting the same message from all our fleet commanders. 847. To 3. Those numbers keep running through my head. What are our orders, Madam President? Jake asked. Lisa Carter was quiet for a moment, and Jake could hear the arguing getting louder behind her. Finally, she turned and shouted at the people in the room to be quiet. When she looked back at Jake, her eyes were hard. I'm calling an emergency. Meeting of the Global Defense Council, she said. Every fleet commander, every colony governor, every department head. We need to decide how humanity responds to this ultimatum. But Jake, I want you to know something right now. Yes, ma'am? I've been president during the colony wars with the Zelfins. I've negotiated trade deals with species that think humans smell bad. I've dealt with alien pirates and space storms and economic crashes. But I have never backed down from a fight, and I'm not starting now. Jake felt a small smile cross his face. Are you saying what I think you're saying? I'm saying that 847 species voted to kick us out of the galaxy, President Carter said with steel in her voice. But they forgot something important about humans. We don't do what we're told just because someone has bigger guns. The call ended, and Jake sat back in his chair thinking about what came next. Outside his window, the stars looked the same as always, but everything had changed. Humanity was now alone against the entire galaxy. Most species would have started planning their retreat immediately, but humans were not most species. Jake had a feeling that the galaxy was about to learn something very important about what happened when you backed humans into a corner. They did not surrender. They fought back. 6 months had passed since the galactic ultimatum, and humanity had made their choice clear. Not a single human colony had been abandoned. Not one fleet had returned to Earth. Every human outpost remained exactly where it was before the deadline. The galaxy had given them one cycle to withdraw, and humanity had spent that time building more defenses. Instead, Captain Sam Rodriguez stood on the command deck of the UES Frontier, watching the edge of the New Texas system through his telescope. New Texas was humanity's farthest colony, and everyone knew it would be the first target. Sam had volunteered to defend it with his small patrol fleet of 12 ships. Against the entire galaxy, it seemed hopeless, but Sam had never walked away. From a fight in his life, the colony below them held 2 million human settlers who had been born on New Texas. This was their home, and they refused to leave. The children playing in the streets had never seen Earth, the farmers growing crops in the red soil had spent decades making this world livable. Nobody was going to abandon everything they had built just because aliens told them to. Captain, called out his sensor officer, Lieutenant Danny Park, I'm reading massive energy signatures at the system edge. Whatever's coming, it's big. Sam felt his heart start beating faster, but he kept his voice calm. How big, Danny? Sir, I count at least 500 ships, and more are appearing every minute. Multiple species, multiple ship types. This isn't just one alien fleet. This is a whole galactic armada. Sam looked at his own 12 ships and almost laughed. 12 human vessels against 500 alien warships. The odds were so bad they were almost funny. But that had never stopped humans before. All ships, this is Captain Rodriguez, Sam broadcast to his small fleet. You all knew this day was coming. We're about to face the biggest fight in human history, but remember what we're fighting for. 2 million people are counting on us to buy them time. Every minute we hold out is another minute for families to say goodbye, for children to understand what's happening, for our people to show the galaxy what humans are made of. On the main screen, the alien fleet began to take shape. Sam recognized ship designs from dozens of different species. Sleek Vortanian cruisers with their blue energy weapons, massive Krillian dreadnoughts that look like flying mountains, fast Zelthian destroyers that could dance around larger ships. The galaxy had sent representatives from every major military. Power Dot in the center of the fleet was a ship Sam had never seen before. It was enormous, easily 10 times the size of his flagship. Its hull was black metal covered in spikes and weapons. This had to be the command ship of whoever was leading the galactic response. Incoming transmission from the alien fleet, reported his communications officer, Lieutenant Grace Miller. Put it on screen. The image that appeared made Sam's blood run cold. It was a Krillian, but not like any he had seen before. This one was massive, almost 3 meters tall, with scars covering his face and arms. His eyes were red, and when he spoke his voice sounded like grinding metal. "I am Warlord Vexler, commander of the Galactic Enforcement Fleet," the alien said. "You are Captain Rodriguez of the Human Colonial Defense Force? Your species was ordered to withdraw from this system. You have violated galactic law." "This is our home," Sam replied. "We're not leaving." Vexler's scarred face twisted into what might have been a smile. "Your species fascinates me, human. You face impossible odds and still you refuse to surrender? In my culture we have a word for this. We call it stupidity." "In our culture we call it courage," Sam shot back. "Courage?" Vexler repeated the word like he was tasting something bitter. "Yes, I have heard this human concept. You think courage will save you from plasma cannons and quantum torpedoes? You think bravery can stop 500 warships?" Sam looked around his bridge at his crew. Every one of them was scared, but none of them showed it. Lieutenant Park was already calculating firing solutions. Lieutenant Miller had opened channels to all human ships. His weapons officer, Lieutenant Joe Carter, had charged every gun they had. They knew they were about to die, but they were ready to make it count. "Maybe courage can't stop 500 ships," Sam said. "But it can make you pay for every inch." Vexler's red eyes gleamed. "Spoken like a true warrior. I will remember you when this is over, Captain Rodriguez. Begin the attack." The alien fleet opened fire all at once and space lit up like a star. Hundreds of energy beams and missiles flew toward the human ships. Sam's fleet scattered and began return fire. But it was like throwing rocks at an avalanche. The UES Courage was the first to die. Captain Betty Stone's ship took 3 direct hits from Krillian plasma cannons and exploded in a ball of fire. But even as she died, Betty's crew managed to launch their entire missile payload at a Vortanian cruiser. The alien ship's shields held, but the message was clear. Humans would not die quietly. "All ships, attack pattern Delta," Sam ordered. "Make them work for it." The human ships dove into the alien formation like wolves attacking a herd. They were faster and more maneuverable than the massive alien dreadnoughts. Sam's ship danced between enemy vessels, firing at weak points and dodging return fire. For a few minutes it almost looked like they might have a chance. Then the real attack began. The aliens stopped trying to capture human ships and started trying to destroy them. Concentrated fire from dozens of ships overwhelmed human shields and armor. One by one Sam's fleet was blown apart. The U's Liberty lasted 8 minutes before enemy fire breached her reactor. The UES Justice managed to ram a Zelthian destroyer before being cut in half by energy beams. The UES Freedom died protecting the UES Hope, but both ships were gone within seconds of each other. Soon only Sam's ship remained, surrounded by 500 enemy vessels. His shields were gone, his weapons were mostly destroyed, and his engines were failing. But he was still alive and still fighting. "Captain," Lieutenant Park called out. "The aliens are targeting the colony. They're firing on the cities." Sam watched in horror as plasma beams struck New Texas. The capital city's dome cracked and atmosphere began leaking into space. The farming settlements in the northern continent disappeared under bombardment. 2 million people were dying, and there was nothing Sam could do to stop it. "Sir," Lieutenant Miller said quietly, "Warlord Vexler is calling us again." The Krillian's face appeared on screen. Behind him Sam could see the lights of burning cities on New Texas. "Your fleet is destroyed, Captain Rodriguez. Your colony is burning. Will you surrender now?" Sam looked at his remaining crew. They were all wounded, and the ship was falling apart around them. But nobody looked ready to give up. "You want my surrender?" Sam asked. "Come and take it." Vexler's scarred face showed what might have been respect. "As you wish, human. You fought well." The final barrage lit up space one last time. The UES Frontier died in fire and glory, taking 2 alien fighters with her. Captain Sam Rodriguez and his crew became the first humans to die in the Galactic War. But they would not be the last. The attack on New Texas was broadcast across human space. Every human world saw the footage of their ships dying, their people burning, their colony destroyed. The galaxy expected this to break human morale. They expected surrender within days. Instead, something else happened. Recruitment centers on every human world were flooded with volunteers. Industrial production shifted to wartime levels overnight. Every human colony began building defenses and weapons. Children as young as 16 lied about their age to join the military. The aliens had meant to make an example of New Texas. Instead, they had reminded humanity what they were fighting for and what would happen if they lost. The galaxy had just learned the first lesson about humans. When you hurt them, they do not break. They get angry, and angry humans were the most dangerous thing in the galaxy. The destruction of New Texas changed everything. What had started as a simple enforcement action against defiant humans had grown into something much larger. The galactic forces were no longer trying to make humans leave peacefully. Now they wanted to crush human resistance completely, and the war had spread to every corner of human space. Admiral Tony Clark stood in the command center deep beneath the Rocky Mountains on Earth, watching displays that showed the worst military situation in human history. Red markers covered the tactical map showing alien fleets moving toward human colonies. Yellow markers showed human worlds under siege. Too many markers had already turned black, meaning those colonies had fallen. The aliens had learned from their victory at New Texas. Instead of attacking one system at a time, they had split their massive fleets into smaller groups. These battle groups moved from system to system, cutting off human trade routes and surrounding human worlds. The strategy was working. Humanity was being slowly strangled. "Admiral," called out his aide, Colonel Nancy Webb, "we're getting reports from the Jupiter orbital stations. They're under attack by a Vortanian battle fleet. Station commander is requesting immediate reinforcement." Tony looked at the map showing ship positions throughout the Sol system. He had already moved every available vessel to defend Earth itself. The home planet was surrounded by 3 defensive rings of ships, space stations, and automated weapon platforms. But even with all these defenses, he was not sure they could stop a determined alien assault. "Tell Jupiter Command they'll have to hold with what they have," Tony said, hating himself for the words. "We can't spare any ships." The truth was that Earth's fleet was already stretched beyond its limits. Every human colony that fell meant more refugees fleeing toward Earth. Every ship that was destroyed meant fewer defenders for the home system. The math was simple and brutal. Unless something changed soon, humanity would lose this war. On the main screen, a news report showed the latest refugee ships arriving at Earth. Families from the outer colonies, crowded into cargo holds designed for supplies, not people. Children cried while their parents tried to explain why they had to leave their homes. Old people stared out windows at the receding stars, wondering if they would ever see their farms again. But mixed in with the sadness was something else: anger. Pure human rage at being driven from their homes by aliens who thought humans did not belong in space. That anger was spreading through every human world, and it was changing people. General Katie White understood that anger better than most. She had been born on one of the first human colonies beyond Earth and had watched it grow from a small outpost to a thriving world. Now that world was ash, and 2 million of her people were dead. Katie had volunteered to lead Earth's ground defenses because she wanted to make the aliens pay for what they had done. "General," her communications officer, Lieutenant Peter Jones, called out, "we're getting reports of alien landing craft approaching the European continent. Looks like the Krillians are trying a ground assault." Katie smiled grimly. The aliens controlled space around Earth, but they still needed to land troops to actually conquer the planet. That meant they had to fight humans on human terms, and humans had been fighting on Earth for thousands of years. "Signal all defense units," Katie ordered. "Operation Homeland is now active. Make them bleed for every meter." Across Earth's surface, millions of civilians had been training for this moment. Factory workers had learned to use military weapons. Farmers had turned their fields into defensive positions. Even children knew how to hide supplies and carry messages. The entire planet had become one massive fortress. The first alien shuttles landed near London just as the sun was rising. Krillian soldiers in powered armor stepped out expecting to face a few human military units. Instead, they found themselves in the middle of a city, where every building was a bunker and every civilian was a potential enemy. Private Jim Davis crouched behind a destroyed car watching the aliens advance down what used to be a busy street. The Krillians were huge, each one almost 3 meters tall and heavily armed. Their armor could stop most human weapons and their own guns could blast through concrete walls. But Jim had been born in this city and he knew something the aliens did not. He waited until the patrol passed his position, then triggered the explosive charges, hidden in the storm drains beneath the street. The blast caught 3 Krillians in the open and sent them flying. Before they could recover, Jim and his squad opened fire from 6 different buildings, then disappeared into tunnels that connected the basements. This same scene was playing out across the city. The aliens found themselves fighting an enemy that attacked from everywhere and nowhere. Just when they thought they had cleared a building, more humans would appear behind them. Every advance cost them soldiers and equipment. While the humans seemed to multiply like ghosts back in space, Admiral Tony Clark watched the tactical displays with growing amazement. The alien fleet was massive beyond anything humanity had ever faced. Thousands of ships from dozens of species surrounded Earth like a metal storm, but something was wrong with their attack. "Admiral," Colonel Webb said with confusion in her voice, "I'm getting strange reports from our sensor stations. The alien fleet is pulling back from the inner defense ring." Tony frowned at the display. The aliens had been pressing their attack for hours, slowly breaking through human defenses. Why? Would they retreat now when they were so close to victory? The answer came from an unexpected source. Captain Lisa Stone, one of the few survivors from New Texas, had managed to capture an alien communications array during a raid on their supply lines. The intelligence she had gathered was disturbing. "Admiral," Lisa reported over a secure channel, "I've been monitoring alien communications for the past week. They're having problems we didn't know about. Some of their ships are refusing to attack civilian targets. Others are questioning whether this war is really necessary. There's growing opposition to the campaign among several alien species." Tony felt a spark of hope for the first time in months. The Galactic Alliance was not as united as it appeared. If humans could exploit those divisions, they might have a chance, but that chance came with a terrible price. Even as some alien species began to doubt the war, others doubled down on their commitment to destroy humanity. The most aggressive species began targeting human civilian populations directly. Entire cities were bombed from orbit. Refugee ships were hunted down and destroyed. The aliens were trying to break human will by making the cost of resistance too high to bear on the surface. General Katie White coordinated the defense of Earth's major cities. The alien ground forces had superior weapons and armor, but they were fighting on human territory. Every street had been turned into a trap. Every building had been prepared for siege. Human defenders used tunnels, sewers, and underground passages to move unseen while alien troops stumbled through unfamiliar terrain. The battle for New York lasted 3 days. Human defenders held the city block by block, making the aliens pay for every advance. When the Krillians finally reached Times Square, they found it empty except for a single human soldier. Lieutenant Bob Miller sat on the steps of the old theater district with a detonator in his hands. "Welcome to New York," he said into his radio so every human on Earth could hear. "Hope you enjoyed your stay?" The explosion that followed could be seen from orbit. Bob had rigged the entire financial district with charges, turning 20 city blocks into a crater. The blast took out most of the Krillian assault force and sent a message to every alien species watching. Humans would rather destroy their own cities than let aliens have them. As the war dragged on, it became clear that both sides were paying a terrible price. Human colonies burned while alien fleets bled ships and crew in endless battles. The galaxy was learning something important about humans. They did not fight to win quickly. They fought to make their enemies suffer for every victory, but humans were learning something too. They were not facing a united galaxy. Some alien species were beginning to question whether destroying humanity was worth the cost. Others were starting to ask who had really started this war and why. The answers to those questions would change everything. But first, humanity had to survive long enough to find them. Earth was still under siege, human colonies were still burning, and the galaxy still wanted them gone. The price of defiance was higher than anyone had imagined. But humans had never been good at counting costs when their survival was at stake. They would pay any price to remain free, even if it meant standing alone against the entire galaxy. The war was far from over, and the worst was yet to come. Dr. Emma Davis had never expected to become a prisoner of war. As a xenorchaeologist, she had spent her career studying ancient alien civilizations, not fighting modern ones. But when Mars fell to the galactic fleet, she had been captured along with thousands of other human civilians and taken aboard a massive Vortanian prison ship. The ship was designed to hold prisoners from dozens of different species, so the cells were large enough for humans. Emma shared her space with Dr. Carl Jung, a physicist from the Mars Research Station, and Captain Frank Morris, a pilot whose fighter had been shot down defending the orbital platforms. For 3 months they had been traveling through space toward an unknown destination while their captors decided what to do with human prisoners. "Emma," Carl whispered during the sleep period when the guards were less attentive, "I've been working on those symbols you found carved in the wall, the ones you said looked familiar." Emma looked at the strange markings that covered one wall of their cell. They were not made by any current alien species she knew. The symbols were older, much older, and they seemed to tell a story about something called the Predecessor Wars. "What did you find?" Emma asked quietly. Carl pulled out a small piece of metal he had been using to scratch calculations. "I've been analyzing the mathematical sequences in these symbols. Emma, these aren't just random carvings. They're coordinates, star charts. And, if I'm reading them correctly, they're pointing to locations of ancient battlefields." Emma felt her heart start racing. The Predecessor Wars were mentioned in many alien historical records, but always in vague terms. Most species claimed the wars had happened so long ago that all details were lost, but these symbols suggested that someone had kept detailed records. "Frank," Emma called to the pilot, "you know stellar navigation better than anyone. Could you help us map these coordinates?" Captain Morris had been quiet since their capture, still angry about losing his ship and his crew. But the chance to do something useful brought him over to examine the symbols. "These coordinates are real," he said after studying them for several minutes, "and they're pointing to systems all along the galactic rim, systems that are supposed to be empty now." Over the following weeks, the 3 humans worked together to decode more of the ancient symbols. What they found was disturbing. The Predecessor Wars had not been a simple conflict between 2 species. They had been a galactic civil war that nearly destroyed all spacefaring civilization. According to the symbols, the predecessors had been a species that expanded rapidly across the galaxy, establishing colonies and trading posts on thousands of worlds. Other species had welcomed them at first because the predecessors were innovative and peaceful. But as their influence grew, some alien civilizations began to fear that the predecessors would eventually dominate the entire galaxy. The fear led to a conspiracy. A group of elder species secretly organized a coalition to attack the predecessors before they could become too powerful. The war that followed lasted for centuries and devastated countless worlds. In the end, the predecessors were defeated, but at a terrible cost. Entire star systems had been rendered uninhabitable and dozens of species had been driven to extinction. "Emma," Carl said one day after decoding another section of symbols, "look at this description of predecessor physiology. The height, the bone structure, the brain development patterns. Does this sound familiar to you?" Emma studied the symbols describing the ancient predecessors and felt a chill run down her spine. The physical characteristics matched humans almost perfectly. The genetic markers, the evolutionary timeline, even the aggressive expansion patterns were identical. Carl, are you saying what I think you're saying? I'm saying that humans might be descendants of the predecessors, Carl replied. Or at least, we're so similar that other species can't tell the difference. The implications were staggering. If humans were related to the ancient predecessors, then the galactic banishment made perfect sense. The alien species were not trying to prevent human aggression. They were trying to prevent the return of an ancient enemy. Meanwhile, in another part of the galaxy, Agent Rick Barnes was discovering the same truth from a very different angle. Rick was a human intelligence operative who had been working undercover in alien space for years before the war started. When hostilities began, he had gone deep underground, using his contacts in the criminal underworld to gather information about alien military plans. Rick's specialty was electronic surveillance and data theft. He could break into almost any alien computer system and copy their files without being detected. Over the months since the war began, he had collected thousands of classified documents from various alien governments. Most of it was standard military intelligence, but recently he had found something much more interesting. Hidden in the personal files of a high-ranking Vortanian official, Rick had discovered communications between the leaders of the Galactic Coalition. The messages revealed that the decision to banish humanity had been made long before the official vote. The charges of human aggression were just an excuse. The real reason for the banishment was fear. Fear that humans would follow the same path as the ancient predecessors. Fear that a young, aggressive species would eventually challenge the established galactic order. Fear that the elder species would lose their dominant positions if humanity was allowed to continue expanding. One message from the Krillian High Command was particularly revealing. The humans show all the characteristics of the predecessor species, it read. Rapid expansion, technological innovation, military aggression, and refusal to accept limits. We cannot allow them to reach the same level of power that the predecessors achieved. The galaxy barely survived the last war. Rick copied all the files to a secure data crystal and began planning how to get this information back to human space. The truth about the galactic conspiracy needed to reach Earth before it was too late. But getting the information home proved more difficult than expected. The galaxy was now completely closed to human travel. Any ship identified as human was attacked on sight. Rick needed to find a way to reach human space without being detected. The solution came from an unexpected source. While hiding in the lower levels of a Zelthian space station, Rick made contact with a group of alien smugglers who were opposed to the war. Not all alien species supported the campaign against humanity, and some were actively working to undermine it. Your species reminds us of ourselves, explained Captain Vextra, a Zelthian freighter pilot who had agreed to help Rick. We were once young and aggressive too. The elder species tried to limit our expansion, but we refused to be contained. We understand what you humans are fighting for. Through this underground network, Rick learned that the Galactic Coalition was not as united as it appeared. Several species had voted for the banishment only under pressure from more powerful neighbors. Others were beginning to question whether the war was really necessary. Some were even secretly providing supplies to human resistance movements. The most important discovery was that many younger alien species identified with humanity rather than with the galactic establishment. They saw the war against humans as an attempt by the elder species to maintain their control over the galaxy. If this information could reach the right people, it might split the coalition apart. Rick transmitted his intelligence to Emma's team aboard the prison ship using a hidden communication device. The combination of ancient historical evidence and modern political intelligence created a complete picture of what was really happening. The galactic banishment was not about human crimes. It was about preventing the return of an ancient threat. The elder species remembered the predecessor wars, and they were determined not to let history repeat itself. They would rather destroy humanity completely than risk another galactic civil war, but their fear might also be their weakness. If enough alien species could be convinced that the war was wrong, the coalition might collapse. The truth about the predecessor connection and the real reasons for the banishment could turn the galaxy's younger species against their elders. Emma, and her team began planning how to escape from the prison ship and get this information to Earth. Rick continued, gathering evidence of galactic opposition to the war. Both groups knew that the truth they had discovered could change everything. The galaxy had voted to banish Earth because they feared what humans might become. But humans were about to show them what they already were. A species that would never surrender, never give up, and never stop fighting for the truth. The war was about to take a very different turn. The truth about humanity's connection to the ancient predecessors spread through the galaxy like wildfire. Dr. Emma Davis had escaped from the prison ship with her evidence while Agent Rick Barnes transmitted his intelligence from deep inside alien space. The revelation that the galactic banishment was based on fear rather than justice shattered the unity of the alien coalition. Admiral Jake Morrison, now promoted to Fleet Admiral after the previous commander died defending Earth, stood in the war room planning humanity's most desperate gambit. The evidence gathered by Emma and Rick had given him an idea that was either brilliant or completely insane. Instead of continuing to fight a defensive war, humanity would launch a coordinated attack against the homeworlds of the Galactic Coalition leadership. "Admiral," Colonel Webb said, looking at the tactical displays, "Operation Prometheus is ready. To begin, all strike teams are in position." Jake looked at the holographic map showing human forces scattered across the galaxy. They were still vastly outnumbered, but they had learned to use their enemies' strengths against them. Human ships were smaller and faster than alien dreadnoughts. Human crews could think and adapt more quickly than alien commanders who followed. Rigid battle plans. Most importantly, humans were fighting for survival while many aliens were fighting because their leaders told them to. "Begin Phase 1, Jake ordered. Across the galaxy, human strike teams launched simultaneous attacks on alien supply lines, communication centers, and military bases. These were not large fleet actions, but small raids designed to cause maximum disruption. Human commandos destroyed fuel depots while human hackers crashed alien computer networks. The attacks were coordinated to happen at exactly the same time, making it impossible for alien forces to respond effectively. The second phase was more ambitious. Human intelligence operatives who had been working undercover in alien space for months activated sleeper cells throughout the Galactic Coalition. These cells began broadcasting the truth about the predecessor connection and the real reasons for the war. The message was transmitted in dozens of alien languages and spread through every communication network in the galaxy. The effect was immediate and dramatic. On worlds throughout the coalition, alien citizens learned that their leaders had lied to them about human crimes. The war was not about protecting galactic peace. It was about preventing the return of an ancient enemy that might challenge the power of the elder species. Many younger alien species were outraged. They had supported the war because they believed humans were dangerous aggressors. Learning that the real reason was to maintain the dominance of older species made them question everything they had been told. Protests began on dozens of worlds, and several alien governments fell within days. The Zelthian Empire was the first major power to withdraw from the coalition. Prime Minister Texvara announced that her species would no longer participate in what she called a war of fear and prejudice. The Zelthians had their own history of conflict with the elder species, and they understood what humans were facing. "We once stood where humanity stands now," Texvara declared in a broadcast to the entire galaxy. "Young, aggressive, and unwilling to accept limits imposed by others. The elder species tried to contain us too, but we refused to be caged. Today we stand with humanity because their fight is our fight." Other species quickly followed. The Altarian Federation announced their withdrawal from the coalition and offered to provide sanctuary for human refugees. The Rigel Confederacy declared neutrality and opened their space to human merchants. Even some Vortanian worlds began questioning their government's commitment to the war, but the elder species were not ready to give up. Led by the Krillian Empire and the ancient Zirithi hegemony, the remaining coalition forces prepared for a final assault on Earth. If they could destroy the human homeworld, They believed the rest of humanity would surrender. Warlord Vexler commanded the assault fleet from his massive flagship. The Krillian leader had grown to respect human fighting ability during the Long War, but he still believed they could be defeated with sufficient force. His fleet included the most powerful ships from every remaining coalition species, armed with weapons capable of cracking planets. "Today we end this," Vexler announced to his commanders. "The humans have fought well, but they are still only one species. We represent the combined might of hundreds of worlds. Earth will fall, and with it the last hope of human resistance." The final battle began at the edge of the Sol system. Human defenders had prepared for this moment, turning the entire solar system into a fortress. Automated weapon platforms orbited every planet while hidden missile launchers waited on asteroids and moons. Earth itself was surrounded by 3 defensive rings of ships and space stations. Admiral Jake Morrison commanded the defense from his flagship, the UES Defiance. The ship had been built specifically for this battle, incorporating technology reverse-engineered from captured alien vessels and powered by human innovation. It was fast, well-armed, and equipped with weapons the aliens had never seen before. "All units, this is Admiral Morrison," Jake broadcast to every human ship in the system. "Today we fight not just for Earth, but for the right of humanity to exist in this galaxy. They came here to finish what they started, but they're about to learn the final lesson about humans. We don't know how to quit." The alien fleet was massive, easily 1,000 ships strong. But as they advanced into the solar system, they discovered that humans had learned from every previous battle. The defensive positions were not fixed fortresses, but mobile weapon platforms that could relocate and regroup. Human fighters darted between the massive alien ships like angry insects, striking at weak points and disappearing before return fire could find them. The battle raged for hours, with neither side able to gain a decisive advantage. The aliens had superior numbers and firepower, but the humans had the advantage of fighting on home ground. Every asteroid, every satellite, every piece of space debris had been turned into a potential weapon dot as the fighting reached its climax. Admiral Morrison made a decision that would determine the fate of both species. Instead of continuing the defensive battle, he ordered the UES Defiance and a small escort fleet to break through the alien lines and attack Vexler's flagship directly. "Admiral," Colonel Webb warned, "we'll be outnumbered 50 to 1 if we leave the defensive perimeter." "Sometimes you have to risk everything to win everything," Jake replied. "Take us through." The human breakthrough caught the aliens by surprise. The UES Defiance used its superior speed and maneuverability to weave through the alien formation, targeting command ships and communication arrays. The escort ships followed in formation, their weapons cutting through alien shields and armor, but the real target was Vexler's flagship. The massive Krillian dreadnought was the heart of the alien fleet, and destroying it would cripple their entire command structure. Jake knew it was a suicide mission, but he also knew it was humanity's only chance. The final confrontation took place in the shadow of Earth itself. The UES Defiance engaged Vexler's flagship in single combat while the battle raged around them. Both ships were heavily damaged, but neither commander was willing to retreat. In the end, it was human determination that made the difference. As his ship systems failed around him, Jake rammed the UES Defiance directly into the alien flagship's bridge. The explosion could be seen from the surface of Earth, and when it faded, both ships were gone, but the sacrifice was not in vain. The death of Warlord Vexler broke the alien fleet's coordination. Without their commander, the remaining ships began to retreat in disorder. The human defenders pressed their advantage, driving the aliens back beyond the outer planets. As news of the victory spread through the galaxy, the remaining coalition forces began to collapse. Species that had stayed in the alliance out of fear now switched sides or declared neutrality. The war that had begun with humanity standing alone against the galaxy ended with humanity leading a new galactic order. President Lisa Carter addressed the galaxy from Earth 6 months after the final battle. Behind her, Construction crews were rebuilding the cities damaged in the fighting while refugee ships brought home the survivors from destroyed colonies. The galaxy voted to banish Earth because they feared what we might become, Carter said. Today we show them what we have become. Not conquerors or destroyers, but the guardians of freedom for all species. The old order that ruled through fear and intimidation is finished. In its place we offer something new, a galaxy, where every species has the right to determine its own destiny. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Dozens of alien species requested membership in the new human commonwealth. Trade agreements was signed, diplomatic relations established, and joint colonies planned. The galaxy that had once voted to destroy humanity now competed for human friendship and alliance. Admiral Jake Morrison was declared a hero, and his sacrifice was remembered throughout human space. The used Defiance was rebuilt as a monument to human courage and determination. Children throughout the galaxy learned the story of how one species refused to surrender even when facing impossible odds. But perhaps the most important change was in how the galaxy viewed conflict and cooperation. The old system of elder species dominating younger ones was replaced by councils.